Now, there's nothing quite as satisfying as nurturing a plant from seed, watching it sprout, grow strong, and eventually bear the fruits of your labor. But I'll be honest with you, it can be a bit disheartening when those seeds you've sown with such care and hope just seem reluctant to get going. It happens to the best of us. Before you resign yourself to another year of lackluster lettuces or barren broccoli patches, let's troubleshoot some of the most common seed-starting mistakes. From sowing at the wrong time of year to neglecting the hardening off process, we'll cover it all. Welcome to Don't Do This Guide, and I'm here to help you avoid those gardening pitfalls and get those seedlings thriving. If you love growing plants but hate making costly errors, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a tip. Right, let's start with the very foundation of your gardening endeavors, the seeds themselves. It might seem obvious, but using fresh, viable seeds is crucial for successful germination. Now, seeds are incredible little things, full of life and potential. But that potential does have a shelf life. Over time, even when stored properly, seeds lose their vigor. The older the seed, the lower the chances of it germinating. Think of it like this. An aged seed is like a tired old gardener. It just doesn't have the same energy it used to. Now, you wouldn't expect to run a marathon after years of lounging about, would you? The same principle applies to seeds. So, check those seed packets for the sow by date. But it's not just about the age of the seeds. Proper storage is equally vital. A cool, dry, and dark environment is what you're aiming for. Dampness is the enemy here, folks. It can lead to mold, rot, and render those precious seeds useless. My tip? Store your seeds in airtight containers in a cool, dark place. A dedicated drawer in a cool room, or even a sealed container in your fridge works wonders. Remember, a little care in storing your seeds will go a long way in ensuring a healthy start for your seedlings. Now, timing, as they say, is everything. And in the gardening world, this couldn't be truer. Starting your seeds at the right time is crucial for giving them the best chance to thrive. It's all about working in harmony with nature's rhythms. You see, each plant has its own preferences, its own ideal time to awaken from its slumber. Some are raring to go as soon as the threat of frost has passed, while others prefer a more leisurely start later in the season. Sowing too early can leave your seedlings vulnerable to cold snaps, while starting too late might not give them enough time to mature before the first frost arrives. So, how do you know when the time is right? Well, the back of your seed packet is your best friend here. It'll tell you the ideal sowing time for your region, taking into account things like frost dates and average temperatures. Don't be afraid to experiment a bit, though. Keep a gardening journal and note down your successes and failures. It's a brilliant way to learn and adapt your methods year after year. We've got the right seeds, we've got the timing sorted. Now let's talk about getting those seeds nestled in their beds. Planting depth. It's another seemingly simple thing that can make or break your seed starting success. Think of it like this. A seed buried too deep is like a seed lost in the woods. It's got all the will in the world to reach the light, but it simply might not have the energy to break through all that soil. On the flip side, a seed sown too shallow is like a seedling exposed to the elements without any protection. It's vulnerable to drying out, being washed away by a rogue watering, or even being pecked away by hungry birds. The general rule of thumb is to plant seeds at a depth 2 to 3 times their diameter. So, a tiny poppy seed will need a light dusting of soil, while a larger bean seed can be tucked in a bit deeper. Again, your trusty seed packet will guide you with specific instructions. Take your time, be gentle, and remember, a well-planted seed is a happy seed. Now, let's talk about watering those tender seedlings. It's a delicate balance, isn't it? Too little water, and they wilt. Too much, and you risk drowning them. Overwatering is a common mistake, and it's one that can lead to all sorts of problems, from root rot to fungal diseases. Remember, those tiny roots are just starting out, finding their way in the world. They need moisture, yes, but they also need air to breathe. Waterlogged soil deprives them of that vital oxygen, and before you know it, your seedlings are looking rather sorry for themselves. So, how do you strike the right balance? Well, I always say, feel the soil, don't just follow a schedule. Stick your finger into the soil up to your first knuckle. If it feels dry, it's time for a drink. If it feels damp, hold off for a bit. And when you do water, water deeply but gently, ensuring the entire root ball is moistened without waterlogging the soil. Light, glorious light. It's the lifeblood of plants, and seedlings are no exception. In fact, they're even more dependent on a good dose of sunlight than their mature counterparts. Without enough light, your seedlings will become leggy and weak as they stretch towards the nearest source of illumination. They're desperate for a good sunbath, those little ones. Now, the ideal location for your seedlings is a bright windowsill facing south or west. This will provide them with the maximum amount of natural sunlight throughout the day. If you're short on sunny window space, don't despair. You can always supplement with artificial light. A simple grow light placed a few inches above your seedlings can work wonders. Just remember to rotate the trays regularly to ensure even growth. Remember, a bright and sunny disposition is what we're aiming for. The hardening off process, a crucial step that often gets overlooked. Imagine this, your seedlings, cosseted and protected in their warm, humid environment, are suddenly thrust out into the harsh realities of the great outdoors. The shock, the wind, the sun, it's enough to make even the hardiest seedling shudder. That's why hardening off is so important. It's all about gradually acclimating your seedlings to the outside world, preparing them for the challenges ahead. Think of it as giving them a little boot camp before they're deployed to the garden. The process is simple but vital. Start by placing your seedlings outside in a sheltered spot for an hour or two each day, gradually increasing the exposure time over a week or 10 days. This gradual exposure to the elements allows them to build up their resilience, toughen up those cell walls, and be ready to face the world head-on. Now let's talk soil. It's the foundation upon which your seedlings will grow, so it's essential to get it right. You might be tempted to use garden soil, but hold your horses. Regular garden soil can be too heavy and compact for delicate seedlings. It can also harbor pests and diseases that can spell disaster for your young plants. These mixes are typically peat-free and contain a blend of ingredients like coir, perlite, and vermiculite, which provide excellent drainage and aeration. You can find seed-starting mixes at most garden centers, or even make your own if you're feeling adventurous. Trust me, using the right soil will make a world of difference in the health and vigor of your seedlings. Now, we all know that feeling of wanting to maximize our space, especially when it comes to gardening. But when it comes to seedlings, overcrowding is a recipe for disaster. Imagine a crowded room full of people all vying for the same limited resources: air, water, light. It's not a pretty picture, is it? Well, the same principle applies to seedlings. When they're packed too closely together, they start to compete for those essential resources. This competition leads to weak, leggy growth as they stretch for light and nutrients. It can also increase the risk of diseases spreading like wildfire through your seedling trays. So give those seedlings some breathing room. Follow the spacing guidelines on your seed packets, and don't be afraid to thin out any overcrowded seedlings as they grow. I'll admit, I've been caught out by this one myself. You sow your seeds with the best of intentions, carefully noting down the varieties and planting dates in your head. But then, time marches on, and those carefully memorized details start to fade like an old photograph. Suddenly, you're faced with a tray of mystery seedlings, and you haven't a clue what's what. Avoid this gardening amnesia by labeling your seeds. It sounds simple, and it is. Use popsicle sticks, plastic labels, or even just a permanent marker on the seed tray itself. Note down the plant variety and the sowing date, and you'll save yourself a lot of head scratching later on. Plus, it just looks more organized. Wouldn't you agree? Finally, let's talk about temperature. Just like Goldilocks and her porridge, seeds have their own preferences when it comes to temperature. Some like it hot, some like it cool, but all of them need the right temperature range for optimal germination and growth. Sowing seeds in soil that's too cold can lead to slow or uneven germination. The poor things are just too chilly to get going. On the other hand, temperatures that are too high can dry out the soil too quickly, or even cook those delicate seeds. So what's the solution? Again, the back of your seed packet is your best friend here. It'll tell you the ideal temperature range for germination for that particular plant. You can also invest in a heat mat to provide gentle bottom heat, especially for seeds that prefer warmer temperatures. Remember, a cozy and comfortable environment will encourage those seeds to sprout with enthusiasm. There you have it, some of the most common seed-starting mistakes and how to avoid them. It's all about understanding the needs of those little seeds and providing them with the best possible start in life. Remember, patience and observation are key. Don't be afraid to experiment, learn from your mistakes, and enjoy the journey from tiny seed to thriving plant. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below with your own seed starting experiences. Let's grow together.